Hello, everyone. My name is Francis Ifeacho, and this is my story. I am Nigerian American, and I was originally born in Nigeria into a middle class household. My father was the provider, and my mother started out at first as a homemaker. Um, and we enjoyed a pretty decent lifestyle as kids growing up. My father had a good job as an engineer with the Nigerian's telecommunications company called Nitel back then. And my mother, she stayed home and she took care of us as kids. We were able to afford the best of schools at the time, and we were all taken care of as kids, financially speaking. So we did enjoy a decent middle class lifestyle, and I'm grateful for that. But however, it wasn't without its challenges. We grew up in a domestic violence family, and we experienced that growing up as kids. Especially, I'm the first of four kids. My mother had the first three of us in quick succession. Me and my brother and my sister, and then our brother, the last one, came 7 years after my sister was born. And between me and my brother and my sister is about 18 months in between. So she had all three of us in quick succession. And being the eldest child, I started to experience domestic violence at around 3 or 4 years old, being my earliest memory of watching my parents get into a fight and just stand there and get my mother, see my mother experience that violence. And each time it would happen, I would stand and cry and feel helpless at the experience. Very traumatic. It was very traumatic for me, and the fights just kept going on and on. The older I got, and my other siblings came into the picture, and we would just stand there watching and crying and begging our dad to stop. And he just did not care. He would just it was very painful for us, and very traumatic experience. Which those memories lingered in my head for a while. My memories for a while. It took me a while to actually heal from that experience as a child. Now, as kids, all of us were all sheltered, so my mother wasn't the type to let us just go out and explore, go too far to explore. However, of all four of us, I was the most sheltered because as the eldest child in most typical Nigerian households, the eldest child, be it boy or girl, tends to assume responsibilities early on in life. So I was forced to sort of grow up faster than my siblings. So while my siblings, in a way, they experienced more childhood fun and experiences than I did. For example, like while my siblings went out to go and play or explore outside, I was expected to stay at home and just do some home chores or take on some responsibilities at home. And in a way, and this went on even until I became a teenager as well. So sort of in a way, I missed out on having a truly enjoyable childhood experience compared to my siblings. I remember cooking my first meal. I made my first meal with my grandmother at 9 years old. At nine, I made a full meal at 9 years old. And Also, my parents, both of them actually, they had unhealed trauma from their growing up experiences that they brought into their marriage, and we were at the receiving end of all of their trauma. It was a lot of emotional abuse going on from both parents onto us as kids, and we had to just endure the emotions that came with that from the unhealed trauma as kids. And this just went on until I got into my secondary school. And at some point, I didn't even know who I was because we would all the emotional trauma and name calling and things like that, you just sort of lose yourself in the process and not know who you are. I also remember as a kid, as a child, I just felt different. I felt different from everybody around me. I was that odd one, odd kid out. I felt out of place. I never, just never knew why. For example, I could be with my friends and I'm having a discussion about something, and the way I saw things and my opinions, the way I give my own thoughts on things was always different from. I always saw things from a different way from my friends at the time, and I would always get picked out for that, or get bullied, picked on for that, or get bullied for that. And that in a way sort of made me to keep to myself or keep saying things to myself, because expressing myself would mean that I would get bullied, or not get feel understood in a way. Anyway, so this just went on for a while, and then I got into the university. I finished high school in 2006, and right after I got into college. And for me, it was liberating because I had, first time I had to leave home, the shelter of home, not being sheltered, and actually allowed to go explore and be free from expected routines and keeping up with a certain image that my parents expected of me at the time. So going to college for me was a period of self-discovery, trying to discover who I was and just getting away from the environment, and healing also from all the emotional trauma that I had to go through as a child. And a few years later, my mother and I actually were very close to. So regardless of what was going on, we had a very close bond. And she would always say that of all of us, I took after her the most. And when she would say that, I would I would say no. I would point to my sister because my sister looks just like my mom, and she would tell me like I wouldn't understand what she meant at the time. And truly, I didn't understand this until later on in life. However, she got diagnosed with breast cancer in 2009, and this was a painful moment for her because at first she didn't tell anyone that she had felt lumps, felt some lumps, and I encouraged her to go to the hospital, which she did. So she got diagnosed and she started a chemotherapy treatment. And I literally watched my mother go from a very robust, healthy person to a thin frame within a year and a half. And eventually she passed away in February of 2011. I was still in college at the time. And this hurt me so much because my mother and I were so close. She taught me a lot of things, a lot of lessons, a lot of things about life in general. And losing my mother was so painful that it almost affected my studies at the time I was in college. I was 20 years old at the time when I lost my mother, and it took me years and years to actually recover from that experience. Anyway, eventually I finished college. I came to America in 2014 January to pursue my master's in at the University of Maryland College Park, and I finished that program in December of 2015. And as an immigrant, I had dreams and high hopes of living the American life, which means a lot of things for us. But just for me at the time, it meant having a successful business, having a nice home, and things like that. So I had a business partner at the time, and together we got together and we started a business, a real estate business, something that we both had passion for, and it was a real estate flipping business. So we started a business, and it took off right away as planned. And we bought a few houses. We renovated them and we sold them as well. But somewhere along the line, a few years down the line, things started to take a different turn. There were just sudden expenses, unexpected expenses, a rising cost of labor and materials, rising cost of even buying new homes to flip and things. and so many things just went out of control at some point. And our expenses, the debts that we had incurred, had spiraled out of place. It grew so much that our only option was to file for bankruptcy in January of 2020. And before we filed for that bankruptcy, it's we delayed in doing that because we tried to explore the other options to see if there was a way out of it, but that was the only way out of it at the time. And for me, it hurt me so much because this business was something that I had put in a lot of my time and my effort and my heart and my dedication into it to getting it started and also running the business from day to day, and to see it just go down the drain like that was so hurtful for me. It hurt me deeply for months actually. Eventually, it was found, and not only that, my I had lost so much money in that business. My credit was also affected as well. My personal credit was dinged. I had After I came here in the U.S. in 2014, I started building my credit right away, and I had built it to over 750 at the time. Because of the Chapter 7 bankruptcy, it dinged by 200 points to about 520 at the time. And it hurt me so much to see my score go that low. Even when I started building my credit, I actually started at the first car I saw was like 650. So seeing that just even below that was so painful to me. It took me weeks to recover from that experience. But anyway, I found the courage to pick myself back up again. I started building my credit. I downloaded this app to help me start building my credit and to start working my way back up again to where I used to be. So my partner and I got together and we thought, okay, because we always had dreams of relaunching the business again, but we had lost so much money that we had to find a way to raise money again to start up the business again. So we both decided to raise money at that time. To March of 2020 was when the COVID-19 lockdown was the rave of the moment. And there were a lot of traders who were trading crypto and making decent gains. So we thought, oh, maybe if we raise some money and trade crypto, maybe we could 1x or 2x our money and then come back and relaunch our business. And that seemed like a good idea to us at the time. So he went to work and raise some money. I went to work to raise some money. And for me, that meant during the 4 years that the business was running, I had gained some. So I had learned some skills in home remodeling, drywall repairs, painting, ceiling fan replacements, gazebos, installations, electrical repairs, plumbing repairs, just general repair skills I had learned at the time. So I took those skills with me and I became a handyman for about 2 years. So this was in the Washington D.C. area at the time where I lived. So I became a handyman, and within a few months, I was able to raise about $30,000 right around July. And I remember at the time I had to live below my means just to be able to save up that money. I cut down on my expenses. I lived in I would say, average or maybe below average apartment just to be able to save and raise some money, which I did eventually. So got into, I, I funded my trading account. I had a different strategy from my business partner at the time. He had more of a long term strategy. I had more of a short term strategy. So I started trading crypto and I was making decent little gains here and there, and I was able to grow it to about $32,000 in my portfolio within like maybe a month of daily. Because sometimes you make, sometimes you lose trades. So then on August 1st of 2020, and I actually belong to a group, a trading group where we got trading signals. It's time to trade today, do not trade today, things like that. So we got the goal to trade that night. This was August 1st of 2020. So I got into my account and I started trading, and I made a margin trade that night because the market was so hot. It was expected to keep going up and up. So I made a margin call, a long call, unfortunately, out of nowhere, the market crashed at night. I actually made a short call because it was actually expected. No, yeah, I made a long call actually, but it crashed. And when it crashed, I lost all of my assets within like 5 minutes. My whole account got liquidated within 5 minutes. And I remember watching my balance just drop from $32,000 all the way down to $0 that night. Unbelievable. I could not believe what I was seeing. Like in 5 minutes, I had lost all of my money. I, at the time, I remember screaming at the time, and I was so frustrated and livid and sad. Another financial setback in the same year that I had first experienced the first one being filing for the bankruptcy that had affected my credit. I could not believe that all of my efforts, all the hard work I had put in, working as a handyman, raising money just to trade and get myself back up again, had just gone down the drain. Those moments of working extra hours, trying to save money, living below my means. It felt like all of my efforts. It felt like taking one step forward and two steps backwards. And I just could not endure the pain. The pain was so much that my only way out was to. All I could think about at the time was, I'm, I'm gonna, I'm gonna end it all. I'm gonna just end it all. This is too much to bear. So I remember I grabbed my car keys. My brothers were they were sleeping in the room at the time. This was at around 11 p.m. at night. So I grabbed my car keys, got into my car. And I was living in Maryland at the time, and I drove to Washington D.C. There was a river called the Anacostia River in Washington D.C. And I drove there, and I was just hell bent and just ending it all because it was too painful. The pain was too much to bear. And then I said that I was, how do I get myself back up again? So it was so painful. So I pulled up to the side of the river, right next to the bridge was the river right there. But then at that minute, something miraculous happened. So when I turned off my car ignition, my car keys, the ignition, suddenly my whole body went numb. I felt paralyzed from my neck all the way down to my legs. I felt this cold rush of air just wash through me, whoosh, like that. And when that happened, I felt numb. I could not move my hands and my legs at that moment. And I felt a presence with me in the car. And, and within like 5 minutes, I something just my eyes became very heavy and I slept off. And just so you know, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do drugs, so I was not like the influence whatsoever at the time. And then after like 30 minutes, I woke up in my car and I remember thinking, what just happened? I could move my body again, my hands again, my body, I could move again. What just happened? And all the pain, the hurt, the emotion that I felt had just vanished. The memory was still there, but all the emotions that had actually pushed me into doing, trying to do the unthinkable had all vanished. And I knew that God had steps in at that moment to save me from doing the unthinkable. So when I sat there trying to make sense of what had happened, I just knew that God still had a purpose for me in life. God still had He had a purpose for me in life. He wanted me to live. And if so, I just took faith in that. I just took consolation in that there was still a purpose for me to live. Um, so I started my car again. Thankfully, now my body could move again. And I drove back home. And I didn't even tell anybody that I tried that because it was too painful. I had siblings too that depended on me, so I knew I had to be strong for them as well. So I spent about a week or so at home, just going over the experience and trying to heal from what had happened. And little by little, day by day, and I was praying as well, and just asking God why this happened to me again, right? And understand that. But the thing I learned from that experience was it taught me to never trade, only trade what you can afford to lose in any investment strategy whatsoever. So I learned that the hard way. And so after about a week or two or so, I found the courage to pick myself back up again and went back to work as a handyman. I was able to open up to my friend, my partner, and I told him what I had experienced. And he had told me that he had told me what his own strategy was and to try out his own strategy, that if it was a lot more safer in a way because he only buys when the market is down and then he waits it out, and then when the market goes back up again after a couple of months, maybe years, or however long it's going to take, and then he sells at that the peak of the market. So it felt much safer to me than day trading and with the ups and downs, and because the cryptocurrency market is very volatile, very very volatile. It can go up exponentially in one day and also drop as well in one day. Very 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 volatile. So I felt like that was a nice idea as well. So I went back to work and I raised money again. I was able to raise some money over time, over a couple of months. Still living in my other apartment, living below my means, taking care of my siblings who were living with me at the time, and family members back home. And I was able to raise about $50,000 again, savings after all the expenses were taken care of. And went back and I switched my strategy this time around and invested in some assets, some coins that had they had potentials for massive growth in the future. So I invested in those coins, and when the next, but funny enough, the coins somehow dipped in value, and my total portfolio actually dipped to below the initial investment amount of $50,000. So it's way below that. Another setback again. I didn't see that coming. Another tough experience. However, for my business partner, his investment had actually grown so much to over $200,000. And remember, we both had plans to launch our business, so we're supposed to raise money here from my end and his end, and then we'll come back together and launch our business. Now that seemed like a distant dream because mine was actually going down, his was going up, and but something strange happened in around January of 2022. There was a lot of cyber attacks going on in cryptocurrency wallet holders, and he was attacked. He was a victim of a cyber attack, and what happened was his wallet got hacked into. Not sure how, and all of his funds were stolen from him, and so like that he lost all of his assets in one day, and this came as a huge shock to him because that was very painful. And my partner was never the same again after that incident. And slowly and gradually over the next few months afterwards, he just lost all vitality and all of his health and all of his will to live again. And eventually he passed away in June 20, of 2022. He passed away in his sleep from a heart attack. He went to bed and never woke up again. Very painful, very, very painful experience. For me, not only did I lose a business partner, our dreams of starting a business together had also vanished as well. And my own assets were even my own investment, my third investment had also dipped in value. I just didn't know what to do. I was lost. And not now also between 2018 and 2022 and 2020 actually, I lost a lot of my family members back home that I grew up with as a child. My grandmother passed away. We were very close. I saw her last before I left home. Never saw her again. She passed away in 2018. My uncle passed away. Two of my aunties that I actually grew up with passed away. And those were very painful moments, just getting the calls back to back that this person had passed on, that person had passed on. My last memories of them were before I left home. And the thought of never seeing them again, or the thought of knowing that the last time I saw them before I left home was the last time I was ever going to see them again ever. It was so, so painful to me. The years that I would say between 2018 and 2022, these years were tough years for me because a lot of things happened back to back. Heartbreaks, betrayals from friends, even people that I call friends that I was kind to, but they paid me back with the opposite. It was a painful time for me as well, and all of that culminated back in June of 2022. So eventually, what happened was, so I looked at my assets and I thought that it was going to be the future seemed bleak. It was going to be a while before it was going to bounce back up because that was my hope to raise money from there, 2x that or 3x that, so we could start a business. So I didn't want to stay or sit around waiting for that to back up because I didn't know when it was going to bounce back up. And so what I did was I got a job as a property adjuster to work claims for State Farm in New Jersey. I was living in Dallas at the time, so I drove all the way from Dallas, about a 20-hour drive, all the way up to New Jersey to go work claims for State Farm. I got to New Jersey in July of 2022, and I was excited again. I had credit card debts that were piling up at the time. I had to pay off. So I got there, and I had an active lease in Dallas at the time, and I tried to rent an apartment in New Jersey, but it was so expensive, a lot more expensive than apartments cost in Dallas. And not only that, I could not afford the luxury of having two apartments running back to back at the same time. That way, I wouldn't be able to save. It would eat up all of my income. So my only option was to what I came up with at the time was I would work my job in the day, and at night I would just drive to Walmart or Planet Fitness, the parking lot, and I'll sleep in my car. That was the only way I could save some money. And then in the morning, my favorite parking spots were either Walmart or Planet Fitness because they had 24/7 security. So I felt safe just, you know, bringing my car, just pulling up in there and finding a parking spot and just sleeping in my car. And the others too, they weren't doing that. So I wasn't alone doing that. But anyway, my most favorite spot was Planet Fitness because in the morning I could just gather my things and just go into the gym, work out, shower, and get ready for the day. And I'll go do my job, my job in the day, and then at night, in the evening, or at night, when the night falls, I'll just drive to Planet Fitness and then sleep there in my car in the parking lot. I did this for about a year, and it helped me save some decent savings again. And by mid last year, I came back to Dallas, and I bought me a multi-unit property, and I bought that. It's a single family house, but it was set up like a multi-property with four different units. So I got me that unit. The goal was to launch an Airbnb business. So I made the necessary furnishings and repairs, and I launched the business in September last year. And suddenly, just like that, the business grew and it took off. And I remember praying to God saying that I hope that this time around, this works. Because I just didn't want to face another setback again. And He answered my prayers, God answered my prayers, and the business took off like a rocket. And the bookings were just coming in back to back, so regularly, so constantly, to the point that my calendars were booked out 100% from month to month in a row. And the success was so crazy. Like having such a success after a string of setbacks back to back was unbelievable for me. And the reviews were coming in so great. 5-star reviews were just coming in like that, just like that. And the revenue was great, very, very great as well. That in a year, within 6 months, Airbnb made me a superhost in 6 months. Within 6 months, I got promoted to a superhost. And within a year of running the business, uh, I amassed 98 reviews, out of which 96 were five-star reviews. Very incredible. 96 were five-star reviews out of 98, and the other two were four-star reviews. Very incredible. And I was able to make two and a half times my initial investment within a year on that business. And the, it's been a huge, tremendous success for me. And for the first time, I felt so happy and relaxed and content that I finally experienced something so successful after what seemed to be a long period of setbacks and delays and challenges as well. And I'm so grateful to God, for bringing me this far in life, and I'm also grateful for my journey as well because I've learned a lot of things. It's on the positive side. It's taught me a lot of things in my life. To be very strong, to stand firm. It's taught me patience. It's taught me resilience. It's taught me most importantly to have that unshakable faith in God, regardless of whatever the challenges are. And also looking back to like those moments of challenge have actually helped me. Those times where I face challenges that forced me to those moments actually forced me to look within myself, to discover aspects of myself as well, and heal from any past traumas and things like that. And it was actually during one of those because I would always ask, why am I so different? Why am I different even when I'm with my friends or family members? Nobody seems to get me, except my mother who had passed away. And it was actually during those moments I actually discovered that I have a very unique personality type, which is the INFJ. The INFJ personality type is the rarest of there are 16 types of personality, and the INFJs are the rarest of all 16 types, according to the Myers-Briggs personality types. I believe that for INFJs, they make up like 1% or so of the entire US population. And INFJ males are like 0.25, and the women, the females are 0.75. So that even makes an INFJ male very, very rare. Um, and my mother too was an INFJ as well. So this explains why she would always tell me when I was a kid, or when I was a teenager, that of all four kids, that I was the one that took after her the most. And then back then I was thinking of gender, and I would always say Eno is my sister, but she was looking more at personality type, and she was right in that aspect. And I've actually come to embrace my personality type, and the gifts and the skills that comes with that, and um, something I'm getting to love more and more nowadays. And yeah, so I just wanted to share my story out there with you. Whatever you're going through, whatever that situation is, that you can see a way out of that, whatever challenge you might be facing right now. I want to encourage you, I want to inspire you to stand strong, be firm, keep going, don't give up, and your breakthrough might just be around the corner. All right. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for listening to my story once again. And if you have any comments or questions, please leave them down in the comment section. Thank you and have a wonderful day.